Good evening, Jeopardy fans and friends. This is Jeopardy Live Panel presented by the JeopardyFan.com. It is May 2nd, 2016 at 9:30 p.m. And I'm Andy Saunders, and I'll be moderating tonight's discussion. Bit of a small panel this evening, but small but mighty. Two people joining us first up. Actually, both returning to Jeopardy Live panel. For my first one, Drew Scheeler.
Hey there.
Thanks for joining us again. And it's been a while for you, Drew. How have you been?
It has. I've been doing well. I think once you've been on the show, you definitely have periods where you follow it very intensely, and then also periods where you sort of like forget to watch. And I'm back in the upswing of getting back into watching the show. So when Andy said he was looking for somebody that had seen the past week of episodes, I more than willingly volunteered. So it's great to see you all.
Thank you very much. And also brought in somebody who listens very regularly now. Hasn't been on much since his appearance on the show, but welcome back, Fred Vaughn.
Howdy.
How's the preparation been going? I guess you're still hoping for a TOC.
Yeah,
invite?
I mean, now I'm hitting the point where it's probably going to kick in, because now it's basically been 3 months of being the toast of Iowa County. and occasionally Fort Lauderdale and Key West as well, since I got recognized both places since then. I mean, yeah.
So, yeah, it looks. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of strong players who are looking to make the field now. Obviously, Andrew Powell, Buzzy Cohen. Any thoughts on them?
I almost feel like I'm completely out of every. Actually, I've been feeling that all along. I'm out of the league of just about everybody who's won at least 3 games since I've been on.
Hey, don't feel that way.
But, I mean, no. I mean, especially Andrew and Buzzy. I mean, I just had to bow down to what both of them do. Partially because
you do realize how close you were to winning 5 games.
I know.
Which is
200.
Where they
no,
are, pretty much where they are.
I sleep with somebody who regularly says the numbers 201.
Someone likes to rub it in.
No, it's just there. Okay. It's not that special.
So, let's see. I guess the first thing to talk about, no, there's one thing on the hashtag. I'll save it for later. Teachers tournament is this week. So, are you guys planning on watching?
Yes, and I watched it at work today. Was planning to rewatch it this evening at home, except that there was a little situation involving at least one company that handles program guides. So bunches of those episodes were listed for last week, and because they technically already aired, I didn't get to record today's episode. So now I'm having to do it manually for the rest of the week. And it got off to a nice start, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. I enjoy watching the Teachers Week, or the Teachers Tournament, more so than Kids Week and the Teen Tournament, even though I will admit, as a Teen Tournament alum, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that I prefer tournaments over the other. I love the Teacher Tournament, though, because it's always great to celebrate the American education system, and it's always fun to see the teachers playing, and yeah, it's probably my favorite of the 3, excluding celebrities, because celebrities can just burn in a flaming vat of oil or something.
I would say there's a rather prominent Wisconsin sports person that I would say did pretty well in Celebrity Jeopardy.
Yeah,
but,
and yeah.
Like, did the Wisconsin Badger play a game I didn't see? Or
No,
Aaron
no.
Rodgers.
I know. But
who I got a bottle of brandy because he kind of blew it at his day job, and just in time for my Jeopardy episodes to air, so the person still had a bottle of brandy to give away.
Ooh.
well, no, but yeah, no. So theme weeks are fun. I enjoy them. I skip some of the theme weeks, but teachers are definitely people to watch. And then I'll probably even tune in for most of the Power Player week as well, because I think that the lineup looks very interesting this year.
It's Power Players seems like it's going to be, especially later in the week shows. The lineup looks like it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing a sitting senator.
Yes.
I like the idea that they're bringing back a lot of our Power Player favorites, like Anderson Cooper, I believe, is back, unless I'm incorrect. And I also like how they're casting the net a little wider this time, and bringing in like TV producers that you hope to do well, and sitting U.S. senators that you hope don't pull a Margaret Spellings and embarrass themselves by losing to the actor that plays the handyman on Desperate Housewives. But, No, I always give major credit and major props to whoever is willing to go up and tape an episode of Jeopardy on stage. So,
oh yes,
I can't wait to see the results of those games, and then celebrate celebrities for being themselves, and hopefully not Wolf Blitzering.
Ooh.
Yep.
Who was it that I saw? I saw somebody recently make the assertion that Andy Richter would give Matt Jackson a good game of Jeopardy, simply based on buzzer timing.
I would believe it.
Okay.
I think that because I've played Quiz Bowl against Matt Jackson several times before, and I think he's willing to admit that his pop culture and trash knowledge isn't necessarily at the level of a lot of like the TOC caliber players, and I think that would definitely be Andy Richter's forte. So I could see them both going to a lot of buzzer races on like maybe like history and science and literature clues up to maybe like 1,200, 1,600 that they both probably know, and those would come down to buzzer races. But I could definitely see if a game was heavy away from academic topics, I think that Andy could definitely poach a lot of like the $1,600, $2,000 clues, and quite possibly take the game away from Matt, depending on, of course, how daily doubles fall, and then.
Okay. Don't let either one of them try a forest bounce. It's like nobody else would stand a chance.
That's not how I expected that discussion to go. I expected some laughter. Clearly, I don't respect Andy Richter's game enough.
No, I think
I remembered being a pretty respectable one for a one-timer.
Definitely, he's one of the few people that have actually scored in the 60,000s, right?
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, because normally you have like a lot of people that score like in the 40s if it's a close game, and they're entering final with like around 20 and they have to double up. But if I remember correctly, and then you have a lot of people, you've had a handful of people like the Ken Jennings and the Roger Craigs who end up getting like around 75, 77,000. But the number of players that have actually scored between like 60,000 and 69,999. I don't remember the exact score of Andy, but I'm pretty sure he fell somewhere in between those numbers. But it was definitely.
He had a very high score.
Yes.
I guess thought that the celebrity level of clues might be too low. But,
it didn't seem that way last year. Most of that week, okay. It seemed like it was pretty. It was pretty on the level with a regular show.
Yeah, no, I think Kids Week obviously has the Kids Week level. Teen Week has slightly easier than regular. I'd say that College Week is different than regular. A lot of the categories I think are similar difficulty. If the distributions of topics on the college boards are a little different from the regular show, of course, you have to have like your token, like here's young people things. You have to have like 2 or 3 of those categories a game. I think that the teacher tournament boards tend to be some combination of those. You'll have like regular difficulty categories and then some like teen week level as well, depending on how exactly they split them up. But I think that on the whole, celebrities, especially when they do like the Power Players Week, it seems like the categories are much more similar to just like the traditional game, and there will be a couple. You know that like that they always give a category that represents whoever's on stage. So like Al Franken's going to get like either the Saturday Night Live, or he's going to get like a Minnesota or some other category like that.
I mean,
and there's probably going to be when Vince Gilligan plays a Breaking Bad cat. He's playing, right?
No, Matt Weiner is.
There we go. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. I know that one of the executive producers of one of my 2 favorite television shows has already played, but no, and Matt Weiner is probably going to get like some. I don't know.
Mad Men.
Yeah, Mad Men.
Crazy people.
Yes, it's going to be a crazy people category.
Or some play on the name, some pun.
Dawn Drapery, and it's all about curtains. It's happening. I'm telling you.
If there's anyone listening that has already seen the episode, they're probably laughing at our discussion right now. But
I don't even know.
Actually, if anybody's watching, I would love for them to hashtag potential Mad Men themed categories to us. Like Dawn Drapery, some pun with Peggy, which I don't even want to think about because that's probably going to go sexual. Some advertising, whatever.
Yeah. Oh boy. I was going to say
for you, Fred.
Okay.
From Jonathan Graham. What does Fred think about his chances against tonight's winner if he's the one that makes the TOC?
See, if this was next week's show, I'd answer really freely, or the week after. Right now, I don't want to say anything. But I mean, seriously, what I saw was beautiful. That's all I'm gonna say. And if I'm up against him, well, I mean, play with what you dealt.
Yeah. Okay. I respect that. I respect that. Keep your cards close to your chest.
Since I'm kind of looked at the ticker and thinking, looked at the trackers and thinking, okay, I'm safe for now, So, because it's there's some season left.
My theory is that Philip 2 was so popular that they may try to cut it off so that he's in.
Yeah, I mean that kind of screws some people who I thought would had a chance if that's the case. But I'm like,
But
like I said, it hasn't happened yet. So hasn't happened.
I mean, it's the spring, and we always seem to have more 4 or 5 time champs this time of year anyway. So
yeah.
So I think this is why most of our people are tuning in our next topic of discussion. And Drew, I think you've got some opinions on this, but there were a lot of people who were very interested in Tuesday's episode, and there were a lot of people who were surprised that Buzzy won that game over Jerry. And I guess I saw a few people saying Jeopardy is not Quiz Bowl. And so, obviously, we probably should have a discussion on how Jeopardy is not like Quiz Bowl. Jason Keller actually wanted me to put forward, should it be more like Quiz Bowl? What do you think, Drew?
Well, let me preface my following comments by explaining quickly my history. with Quiz Bowl and Jeopardy. I did Jeopardy in high school as a senior in the teen tournament, and I had never played any sort of organized quiz activity, never any Quiz Bowl. And then after I taped Jeopardy, I was one of the and did miserably bad and decided, wait a minute, I should probably learn these things so if I ever get on another game show in the future. That's when, as a freshman in college, I started playing Quiz Bowl. And I think that there's okay, so that's basically my history. I would say that Quiz Bowl and Jeopardy are two activities that, in theory, should be very similar because they both test mental recall. They both fundamentally are games about showing off what you know. That being said, they are diametrically opposite activities. Quiz Bowl is a contest between you and a team against another team of people, and it is about your depth of knowledge in a concrete, pretty well-defined canon of recurring answer lines that will show up from tournament to tournament. There's a much more finite set of knowledge as to what can be asked for in Quiz Bowl and what appears in the modern Quiz Bowl canon. Jeopardy, on the other hand, is an individual game that places much more of a priority on your buzzer speed and your buzzer timing, and it is a test of your breadth of knowledge, and it requires a very surface-level understanding of pretty much the entirety and arcana of human experience. It constantly brings in new things that haven't been mentioned on the show before. It does not require a deep knowledge. It's about having a wide knowledge. And so you would think that both of these activities would be very similar because they're both quiz activities involving buzzers, but at the end of the day, they are very different games, and there's not a one-to-one correlation. The fact that you have so many great Jeopardy players that have been Quiz Bowl players is I mean, yeah, that's a thing. There have been Quiz Bowlers that have adapted to Jeopardy. They've been able to do well on the buzzer. They've been able to expand and show their knowledge existing beyond the Quiz Bowl canon. But at the end of the day, you also have I honestly do not believe that 2/3, 3/4, even after training, of Jeopardy players could be able to jump over to Quiz Bowl and adapt to that canon, which requires months, if not years, of specialized preparation and study. So you think that they're both buzzer games, so they're equivalent, but they are really so fundamentally different as to it's oh god, I don't want to do a sports analogy because I don't know anything about sports. But how about baseball to cricket? They both use similar equipment.
No.
There's similar terminology. No, okay.
No.
I'm gonna just shut up now. Well, I'm slightly ahead.
I might consider Jeopardy to be like a decathlon, whereas Quiz Bowl might be ultra long distance running. They're both athletics, but a completely different set of skills. And you have to be well-rounded to win the decathlon. Whereas for long distance running, you just have to have a lot of stamina. Sorry.
Yeah.
Would that be more worthwhile?
But I think
you're allowed to say no.
No, it's a much better sports analogy than what I was going for. But I think at the end of the day that an ultra long distance runner might not necessarily have the skills or can we say like I don't want to bring this up, almost like an armless long distance runner, so that when they try to go to some of the decathlon events, they just lack the ability to Oh no, never mind.
No.
That did not come out how I intended for it to. It's like
Probably not, but I'm getting the idea as a person who's had was never in the Quiz Bowl world at all, and I think I'd probably just put it this way: I'd be a nice hanger-on in Quiz Bowl land. I mean, to me, it's just, I've had a brain for useless knowledge all my life. And I found a place
another
to
thing
use
I
it.
think, sorry, yeah. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I was done.
Okay. Another thing I'm thinking is that 2010's Quiz Bowl is a lot different than early 2000s Quiz Bowl. There was a lot more trash back then. And there seemed to be a lot more testing of breadth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now it's, as you describe, a lot of deep knowledge in academic subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the great champions we've seen, even lately, like Colby Burnett.
Yes.
I mean, he played Quiz Bowl, but he was also a really good trash player. So that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I would say that the number, I mean, currently there are still academic Quiz Bowl events and there are trash Quiz Bowl events.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of players in that overlapped Venn diagram that are highly successful at both is a much smaller percentage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the academic players tend to stay specialized in the academic. And I mean, in academic tournaments, you'll have 20 questions around, and there will be one pop culture, one trash. So I think that a lot of those players prefer to I mean, if you wanted to study as an academic player to pick up the trash point, it wouldn't be a good idea. There were so many other ways you could study that would be more effective to getting you additional points. Studying for like your one trash question, like 10 per tournament, which might mean like 2 sports, 2 music, 2 movies over the entire course of the day, that wouldn't be worthwhile. And likewise, I'd say that like for example, I consider myself a much stronger trash player than academic player. A lot of my coursework was in like popular culture and history, so I would be playing in academic tournaments against other history majors at different schools, but my history courses studied movies and TV, whereas theirs might study like, I don't know, Restoration England. So I think that the players that are at the top of both the trash and the academic are incredible, phenomenal players. But there are also a ton of phenomenal players that are both firmly linked into one of those two worlds.
Mm.
And Jeopardy as a game though asks for so much. I mean, it just needs that surface level knowledge. I mean, with Quiz Bowl is going to ask you like a 10-line toss-up on, I don't know, what's a famous work of English The Mill on the Floss.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to expect you to know characters, they're going to expect you to know plot summary, they're going to expect you at higher levels to know like the critical analysis of the book, references to it by other authors, whereas Jeopardy is just going to be like, hey, who wrote The Mill of the Floss? And if you get that question right and win the buzzer race, you're going to get like 1,600 or 2,000 for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that just because you're very strong at one doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be strong at the other, and that isn't even factoring in the whole buzzer side of things, because Jeopardy is so much a buzzer-based game. I mean, you have to get the buzzer rhythm down. You have to wait until the end of the question. With Quiz Bowl, the second you know the answer, you just shove your hand down and hope that you buzz in first. I mean, just like the pageantry almost of having to wait for the person in the back room at Sony to flip the switch so that you can buzz in. I mean, it's a totally different world than anything. So you have a lot of these very strong quiz bowlers who obviously have the knowledge. Jerry Scott Blish on against Alex Jacob, but for whatever reason, the buzzer, it's the great equalizer. And if you can't get the buzzer down, you're not going to win your first game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but to be fair, well, I was going to say, to be fair to Jerry, though, up until Final Jeopardy, he was merging. He was merging everything he mentioned. He just flamed out on Final, really. Yeah. And I was actually impressed with him, but more than I thought I was going to be, because the way Alex Jacobs sold him, it almost was an oversell. and then I watched the episode and realized, okay, he did hold his own. He was, say what you want about the presentation.
Now, we both saw, we all saw Final Jeopardy on Tuesday. Now, Drew, from a Quiz Bowl perspective, could that have simply been Jerry had too much knowledge and wasn't able to come up with what they were going for?
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, he was trying to write down Germinal, which is Emile Zola's masterpiece of French revolutionary striking coal workers, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
At the end of the day, he should have seen the clue and been like, what's a book with blood in it? And then hopefully have just like immediately jumped to Dracula. Because the Jeopardy writers, maybe in like the Tournament of Champions level, that's when they might like expect you to name the other book with blood in it.
Mm-hmm.
The Jeopardy writers, the majority of the time, aren't trying to screw you over. They're looking for, in a perfect world, they're looking for a very like common answer, hopefully. Like they're looking for a plausible answer that most people should know the majority of the time. There are definitely those specialized Final Jeopardies. I remember like probably 10 years ago at this point, there was the Escoffier final that was like, hey, can you name a famous French chef of like the 19th century? That obviously is a little more specialized, but the clues, I mean, Jerry should have hopefully just seen that clue and been like, what's a book with blood in it? And the fact that he just overcomplicated it, it's similar to when Matt Jackson had that, hey, what's a famous poem from the mid-20th century? And he replied, if I remember correctly, No Air, which is apparently a poem that is well beyond my level of academic quiz bowl experience, when he should have just been like, oh, Hal. Hal was a popular poem in like the 1950s that got banned everywhere.
Right.
So there's definitely a case where knowing too much can hinder you. And if you're a player playing in a regular game with that much knowledge, you just need to figure out, hey, what's the more, not necessarily the obvious, but you're just looking for like that answer that you realistically think the writers would be asking for.
Okay.
And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And also, I guess if you've got that kind of knowledge and you've seen Jerry, you can obviously learn something.
At least the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
I said at least the first 2 rounds, certainly.
Yeah.
So I ran a poll on my Facebook yesterday. Or, sorry, not Facebook, Twitter, sorry. Because more and more I'm seeing news stories about Jeopardy. And they're using the word panel to describe the group of 3 contestants.
No.
Really?
No.
Yeah, really.
A panel is something that you install as an electronic device. It's something that you put into your ceiling that like you have ceiling panels. It's something that you I'm running out of uses for the word panel.
Well, I put the poll up. Is, how do you feel about the use of the word panel? 25% said I like it. 75% said I don't. So that's pretty overwhelming.
I do have a confession to make about that poll, though, Andy. I need to disclose that I voted against it, as did my 45 Twitter sock puppet accounts. Did I also? No. I'm joking. But no, a panel is a fine word, but not to describe Jeopardy contestants. I would is there isn't an agreed upon term, is there?
No.
No.
I haven't heard one.
So we need to start a contest. Personally, I would go for something that like has 3 in it, like or something that has like tri in it. Could they be like a troika?
Triumvirate?
Ooh, those are 2 good ones so far.
Yes, the triumvirate is an excellent word. there's that whole like power dynamic to it,
Yeah.
and Jeopardy is a game of power.
Mm-hmm.
They could
Though,
be...
I mean, the comments I saw, panel implies that what they are doing is somewhat cooperative, and they don't really talk to each other outside of the chat post game with Alex.
Yeah.
They're competing against each other.
I like that point, though. Panel definitely implies some sort of like back and forth, give and take. Mm-hmm. You're working on a common thing. No, I would definitely... There has to be a better word, and somebody's going to think of it, preferably sometime like sooner than later, and it's just going to click into everyone, and we're going to be like, how do we never think of this word in the...
Oh no, we're not even going to say that. We're just going to do it, and just, there was before and after, and nobody will know why.
Yeah.
I mean, I just... Yeah, I mean, a panel, I mean, to me, that assumes a dialogue is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So clearly it's just going to be, or at least panel is going to be, the term that is used by people who don't really seem to know much about Jeopardy. Okay.
And now Andy gets like a hate brigade from like USA Today or whatever site was using panel. No. I have to give him a hard time.
Yeah. So a lot of people seem to like Buzzy. You're on board with him, right, Drew?
I really like Buzzy. I think he's polite, he's entertaining, he brings a certain energy to the game. I love his glasses. He pulls off like those round frame things that I wish I could. I think he's like your LA style, like he's cool. He has that like element of cool. When he was talking about cars on Friday, I was like, yeah, I could see him being a car guy. I mean, he's a good player. I think he lacks a lot of those like, not mannerisms, but like he plays the game. He moves things along. He's upbeat. I mean, I can't really think of many more things I'd ask for in a Jeopardy contestant.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. And I mean, there is some happy to be there, clearly, but there's but he also respects the game enough to actually play it. And wow, I've been impressed with all of his wins, because none of them are quite the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I brought this up, there seemed to be, at the very least, a very vocal minority of people who feel that Buzzy is conceited. And I guess where I'm going with this, why are champs always so polarizing like this? There's always a group that really likes someone, and always a group that really hates someone.
Yeah. Can Prince Valium talk first?
Yes.
No, I mean, and this happens at my job. Like, basically every 2 or more day champion, there's some people at my job who are trying what they like to call voodoo. Simply because, yes, you've done it. And part of that has to do with knowing me, and wanting to see me in the tournament of champions, and I kind of have to shut that down. Just say, no, that's not what it's about. I'm watching it to have fun with this too now. Yeah. And the people involved have all made me happy. So I'm, made somebody worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to use this analogy, but it's sort of like how Nixon was talking.
Well, considering your previous analogies, Drew.
But this is like an actual analogy rooted in historical history. Historical history, oh my god, that was redundant. Anyway, so it's sort of like when Richard Nixon was talking about the silent majority. I mean, the vast majority of Jeopardy viewers have nothing to say because everything's going fine. And then the problem is with social media, you have literally like two people that don't like someone, and they can turn that into like 500 tweets. So when people look, if the tweets get picked up by the right people, I mean, it's frustrating because the vast majority of Jeopardy viewers have no problems with any of the contestants. When people really like a contestant, you don't necessarily hear that. When they hate somebody, when you get like Chew hate, or you get like pretty much any successful contestant of the past 5 or 6 years now has a vocal group of people that just don't like them for normally some asinine reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it just sort of comes with the territory now. I mean, it's almost like if you win the games, you're lucky because you're sort of getting like paid that money. Like, oh, here's the money for you getting harassed on social media. But yeah, it's frustrating though. I mean, you could literally have two people that dislike someone, and they can, using the magic of the internet, make it look like 8,000 people hate them.
Right. And
But, I mean,
have
I
a few
would say
times.
there are some that are worse than others. But I can think of one set of comments last year. Let's see. You know, actually, I'll save it for the panel tonight. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. I was going to bring forth some comments on one contestant last year, but though I think again, what you say with the silent majority is true, because especially when the minority says, "Oh, from Googling around a little, it seems like we're in the majority with our opinion of this character." No, you're not in the majority. So.
Well, I'd also bring up probably that a lot of the Jeopardy watchers, of course, not to pull that whole like old people at the retirement home stereotype, but you know that there's a huge group of people like, oh, Buzzy reminds me of my nephew that never comes to visit me, or like Buzzy reminds me of this family member. I mean, I like Buzzy. I like all of the contestants. I mean, I think there are times that I think you can reasonably dislike a contestant, not hate them, but like if they play the game slowly. If they have like, even if they have grating mannerisms, just get over that. That isn't a major thing. But like the times to look down on a contestant is if they're doing something to actively keep people from either playing or enjoying the game. And I can only think of a handful of players that have ever done that on their time on Jeopardy. I mean, as long as you're moving the game forward and you're having fun while you're doing it, there really isn't anything you can complain about with a contestant.
Yeah, I mean, and there are people that I've seen do that, but it's not. It didn't look intentional. It didn't feel intentional. It was the way the game flowed.
And as long as we don't have people comparing contestants to like Bobo the Clown or something, then I think we're okay.
Well, I don't want to name any names in particular. But there's one TOC contestant this upcoming cycle who does resemble a clown. No, I'm joking. I can't think of anyone. But I'm just saying, isn't that irrational? We shouldn't irrationally dislike Jeopardy contestants.
I would agree with that for sure.
Yes. I mean, if you're going to dislike a Jeopardy contestant, dislike a celebrity. But don't do it on Twitter, or else their tweet brigade will come back at you. So you'll have to keep that.
I'm allowed to dislike Kevin O'Leary, right?
Hey, that man is a financial genius not seen since Trump. Actually,
thank you for that.
Actually, as a long
I
time.
like how that made a left turn.
Actually, as a long-time Shark Tank fan, I think that Kevin O'Leary is I would vote for Kevin O'Leary before Trump. Actually, now that I think about it, I think Kevin O'Leary is a Canadian citizen. So that won't work for obvious reasons, but...
He's considering a run for the leadership of the Conservatives up here.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're Canadian.
Canadian dirt!
And I used to watch some Lang and O'Leary on YouTube. Not much of it. But no, I think, yeah. He's a person. I like Shark Tank. It's a fun show. Sometimes I'm like, what stupid business could I create? And then I'm like, wait a minute, that would require effort, so I don't.
You're not alone.
No. Could we start?
So
no, what were you
my
gonna say?
next, I was going to move on.
Yeah, go
We'll
ahead.
move on. Trust me.
Okay.
Please.
This is going to quickly devolve into the Jeopardy fan presents a Shark Tank panel discussion.
Yeah, so on last week's panel, Sarah Edwards, she brought forth a very good question, probably the best question I've heard in a while. How did you fall in love with Jeopardy?
Ooh. In my case, this goes back to the very late Art Fleming days, like sick days home from school, watching it. That was kind of, I mean, that was it in a nutshell. And then when it came back, when it came back with Alex, at the time in New York, it was on just as I was getting home from school, so I'd always kind of catch a bit of it, and kind of, and I just realized, wow, I like this.
Drew?
Well, I have an awkward. It's not awkward, but I think my earliest memories of watching Jeopardy were actually Bob Harris's original run of games.
Wow.
Because I'm not sure, or I think what stuck out was he was originally from Cleveland. It was like, Cleveland, that's where near I live. And so I started watching a couple times after that, and like, oh, and now having gotten to meet Bob a couple times, it's always funny because it's like, hey, you're the reason I embarrassed myself on national TV. Not, of course, that was my own fault, but one of the causes that led up to that. So, but yeah, and then I think also there's definitely a generational element at play now. I'm sure that a lot of cases of like parents introducing their children or grandparents introducing their grandchildren, and I mean, it's gone on for so long at this point that it definitely hit cultural institution probably like 20 years ago now.
Yep.
So it's just been a continued, and I mean it's a positive upbeat
I would
show.
say it hit cultural institution 25 years ago when Cliff Clavin was on with Cheers.
Oh, good point. Yeah, as somebody who's 25, I'm trying to think whether or not I would have actually been alive for the original airing of that episode. But no, it's definitely. I mean, and nothing. I definitely also think it plays into that whole American Dream archetype. It's like if you work hard enough and if you learn enough, you can make it onto this magical show where you can like pay off a trip to, I don't know, like Acapulco or something, and like get house repairs done because you knew things that well-read people should know about, and you got to show off on a national stage. So.
See, I don't know. I mean, I look at it also as, as one of the, a place in, regular American culture that still gives what about about knowledge at all. Doesn't matter how surface or or deep.
Yeah. And it's infinitely deeper than Wheel. So.
Oh yes.
Lord.
I mean, it's great though because as long as there are more people that are literate, Wheel of Fortune will survive. And as long as there are more, there's an ever increasing number of young librarians from Des Moines. So Jeopardy will always have a place in American culture. It's a celebration of knowledge and getting paid money for that knowledge, which are two things that, well, one of those things at least, that a lot of people like money. And then the knowledge is just the icing.
Nothing's more American.
Yes.
Now, last week I did in fact ask people if they wanted to share their stories. I got one from Jonathan Graham. And he writes, I was born on the day of Trebek, episode 70. My much older brother was into the Trivial Pursuit craze, and so I had probably been watching the show from my high chair. I think I know the significant early season contestants more from watching Super Jeopardy than from their original performances.
Mhm.
I would say that the contestant that changed me from being a more passive viewer to someone who wanted to know all the stuff was Jerome Viret. And that's his contribution. So
I love
thank you for that.
Jonathan. Jonathan's a good friend.
That is beautiful, though. Seriously.
Yeah. And then what was it? And Jerome is another one of those people that you get to meet. And I mean, I think Jerome's games were when I was like 3 or 4. But the fact that YouTube's a thing, and I got to meet Jerome, and I want to say like I met him at I want to say I met him at a Tacona. Like this would have been probably Tacona 1, like 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to see Jerome before the next Tacona because he came and he staffed at Dave Madden's History Bowl. And it was definitely between those 2 meetings I had gotten to see his original games. It's just definitely one of those things like it's odd. It's one of those odd like meeting your hero types of things, like getting to meet a lot of the Jeopardy contestants because I do feel like you think you know these people when you've seen them on TV 4 or 5 times, and then getting to meet them in person and discover like, oh, they're real people just like you, except for Trebek.
Oh, Trebek is this whole other. He is from another universe.
I think like
it feels that way, certainly.
From my experience with Trebek, meeting Trebek is a lot like how I would have thought that like meeting Prince would have been like. Just like these like incredible like larger than life personas that they've developed, and you want to like try to glimpse behind that persona. But even if you do get to meet them, like I never really felt that I got to like really see that far beyond Trebek, which I think is almost a good thing. Sort of like, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, but you know, back to the original question. I think the other thing that really kind of got it really renewed my relationship because I quit watching for a few years, partially from living in the Midwest where it's on in the afternoon and pre DVR days.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember, I was at a Subway like one afternoon and just saw in the window, little cards for a lottery because the Jeopardy college tournament was being taped that year at UW-Madison, at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I just said, "Oh, let's do it." See, I like free stuff, and I still kind of like Jeopardy, and found one day about a month later found tickets in the mail, and went. And it was also 2008 during the presidential primaries, and I had seen Barack Obama at the Kohl Center 2 months before, and it was none of the security that Jeopardy had. That was like that amazed me, and and then just sitting through those shows, and I think it was like the 3 semifinals that I'd sat through. And I was back in love. I mean, I was like, yeah, I'm watching, sorry, I'm recording it now. I'm watching it regularly, and I work for a cable company, so I can still watch it at work now, which I couldn't a few years ago.
That works really well.
Yeah, I had a similar falling out of love with Jeopardy story. After I auditioned for the teen tournament and didn't get selected, I was like, "Oh, I'm never gonna watch this show again." And then I got a call like 10 months later saying, "Hey, we want you to be on another teen tournament from the same group of contestants." And it was like, "Oh, darn it! I should have probably watched the show in preparation for the last however many months." And then I watched the show probably religiously every night. This would have been pre-DVR for like 4 or 5 years. And now I'm to the point where I'll watch it in spurts. Like, sometimes it'll be like, oh, I have 2 weeks saved up, so let's watch like 10 episodes on a Saturday, fast forwarding through the commercials and the boring parts.
Yeah. The day I got back from Florida in my little trip to Florida in March, I spent the afternoon binge watching the episodes that had aired while I was gone, even though I had watched most of them in Florida. I wasn't caring.
I remember I've been at Disney World before, and it'll be like the early afternoon, and in Orlando, I want to say they showed at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's like, I could go back to the park, or this is like a Tournament of Champions quarterfinals, so, And then my mother will come back to them and be like, why the hell are you watching Jeopardy? You're at Disney, you should be at the pool or something. And then you go to the pool.
That was my case with Key West. Well, the weird part. Well, the thing is, that night I was in Key West, the episode had somebody who was an alternate on my second taping day finally getting on. Okay. So I said, "Oh, I gotta watch this." it was Paul Hohenzeidler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeopardy.
And I was still sober. And I was still sober at that point, which doesn't happen in Key West often.
So I'm at the point where, do you guys have any questions for anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Andy.
Okay.
How have things been? You've just been sitting back and letting Fred and I talk tonight, so.
Really?
What do you think of Buzzy?
Pardon me?
What do you think of Buzzy?
Well, I like him. I think he's great. And it's great for the show because there seem to be a lot of people who like him and are looking him up.
And I have to admit... Okay, sorry. No. Sorry. No, keep going. Sorry.
Oh, no. I just like the fact he seems to be popular, and there are lots of people who are big fans of him.
Oh yeah, and I would agree because just the number of very weird emails that I get from friends after Jeopardy is aired, saying, basically any amount of puns on the word buzz. In them. Yeah, he's definitely having a moment, and a nicer person couldn't have had it. Really. Because I liked a comment he made on Facebook in the Jeopardy contestants group, and he raved about it. He raved about me and the like. I'm like, no, man, no. This is your moment right now. I'm 5 minutes ago. No, but a person who's an a-hole isn't going to do that.
So I have another question for both you, Fred, and you, Andy. Now that we've had a person named Buzzy on the show, what other Jeopardy appropriate names would you like to see future contestants have? I'm thinking like if somebody's like name was Busby, I think that would be fun. If somebody was like obviously there's not going to be like signaling device, because if so, your parents had terrible naming conventions for you.
Has there been a daily? I'm wondering.
I was thinking the same thing.
Please, I'd like to make this a true daily double. With like a wink and like a hand motion at the camera. Oh my god, that would be perfect.
I'm trying to think of some others. I'm like, oh man.
See, Daly was the first one I came up with.
Oh my god, please just.
It's too easy.
Yeah. Like if somebody's name was like Final, but then like no, that wouldn't even be that good. Oh. I think we need to start an internet campaign to bring more people named Daly onto Jeopardy. But only if they mug for the camera every time and just go, I'd like to make it a true daily.
See.
Oh my god, I'm sorry about that.
So if you have any suggestions for the group of 3 contestants, names for Jeopardy contestants, please use the hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. On a more, I hate to use serious note, but at some point in the next couple of days, I am going to be recording an interview with Andrew Powell. So if you have any questions you would like me to ask, please leave them on the hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, and I will ask them.
But yeah, I don't know. I'd be fascinated to hear some more about his music, his past in music and present in music.
Mm-hmm. I'm writing that down right now. Any other questions at this point?
I don't think so.
Nothing's coming to mind, no.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Also, to the both of you for coming on. Thanks for coming on again.
No problem.
This was a great discussion, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, thank you.
So you'll hear me in a couple of days once I record the interview with Andrew Powell. And I will post the date of the next Jeopardy Live panel. I haven't quite scheduled it yet. It might depend on how much I feel like going to an Atlanta Braves game this weekend. But I'd like to go, but if it's the only time to schedule a panel, I might not.
Well,
so in
and
case,
for a lot of people, Mother's Day is a consideration as well. Actually, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. It may be a Monday panel weekend.
Yeah, do you know that approximately 99% of humans have at some point had a mother in their lives? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. On that note, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and
by the way, since
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but since I'm going to be sharing the link to this on Facebook, happy Mother's Day to lots of women in my life, including my own mother, because somebody's going to get this to her attention, I'm sure, because she is not online.
I'd wish Happy Mother's Day to my mom, but she's probably going to be busy playing Monopoly Bingo. So. But I was the one that introduced her to that game, so I'm sorry, Mom. Please forgive me.
So if you're listening on iTunes, remember to subscribe, and also in the next little bit you'll be hearing the credits. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon here on Jeopardy Live Panel. Have a good night.
Bye.
Night.